Welcome to our lunchtime webinar, the next in our series that we're featuring for spring 2018. I'm Anna Bly, and I'm the Communications and Media Specialist here at Main Street. And our series of webinars that we've been going through are providing an overview of the Main Street 4-point approach, and each of our sessions is being devoted to a specific point, with later information after we've covered each point related to Main Street America accreditation and also becoming a certified executive director. Attendance is required for new executive directors, and we certainly also invite nonprofit leaders and board members to attend, as well as other individuals who work in your community, in your Main Street community revitalization. Last week, we covered the promotion point with Robin Bobian, and today is focused on the economic vitality point, and we're joined by Main Street Revitalization Specialist Keith Kjelstrom, who's presenting today's webinar. Welcome, Keith.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you for that introduction. So we're going to get started, and we have about 12 people signed in right now. And I'd like to have a little bit of time at the end for questions, and Anna is going to be our technical advisor on how to do that. But I'm really interested in hearing what your thoughts are, what you want, where you want to take this next, and also if you have any advice or guidance or statements you want to make for your fellow classroom students, please say that too, and that'll be at the end. So let's start going through the slides. This is the economic vitality point, and my contact information is there. I was just telling Anna before we started that I hope people will follow up when they have questions and call their revitalization specialists, because we are just sitting on a mountain of information, and I respond best to people who ask me have a specific need. And I'm not so enthusiastic about anticipating what your needs are ahead of time, because everybody's so different, and this stuff is best learned incrementally. So what we're doing today is an overview of economic vitality. There's so much information. There's no shortage of information online for you, and I am always happy to help you find that information. And because I have to find it all the time and stay on top of what information is out there, if you don't want to do an internet search on something, call me or email me, and I will see if I've already got it and send it your way, because you guys are busy. You need to have the information you need when you need to have it. So let's stay in communication. So what is economic vitality? Economic vitality has been called a lot of different things over the years, over the 30-plus years, the decades that Main Street has been a proven approach in the country and in New Mexico. They started out calling it economic restructuring. New Mexico Main Street decided to be innovative many years back and call it economic positioning. And then nationally, the National Main Street Center just decided just in the last few years to start calling it economic vitality, because they thought that connoted more what we're really going for here. So sometimes we meet up with Main Street organizations that say we want our 4th point of the Main Street approach to be called economic development or business development. Whatever you call it, it is our economic vitality point. And if you're more comfortable with calling it something different in your own organization or in partnership with your other local business development and economic development organizations, then we're fine with that. So we say it covers understanding the market by looking at market information, both quantitative and qualitative. Knowing what your assets are. You know, the Main Street approach pushes asset inventories and knowing what your assets are and understanding them and capitalizing on them. And of course, this whole approach grew out of the National Trust for Historic Preservation, which very correctly, I think, said the most critical economic asset that your community has is your historic commercial buildings, and so capitalize on those. when we start doing work in economic vitality, it's really all about retaining and strengthening the businesses that are there. Those are your pioneers. They may have been in the district for a century. Sometimes we have businesses that have been passed down through the families for 100 years. Other times it's 30 and 40 years, and or more recently. So before we start talking about the next step, which is recruiting new businesses and uses, we always work on retaining and strengthening the existing businesses for the two critical reasons. One reason being they were there, they came there, they put in the work and the effort, they pioneered the whole approach, they devoted themselves to the downtown district, and they committed themselves. So we want to strengthen them because they're really important. And then secondly, you can't attract new businesses unless you've got vital businesses thriving right there in the town, or I guess you can, but it's a lot easier. And if you remember, what is real estate all about? First and foremost, it's location, location, location. So if a new business is going to be attracted to a location, then that needs to be a thriving location with good values, good property values, good market power, things going on, and businesses doing well. So the next step then is recruiting new businesses and uses that capitalize on the existing mix and complement the mix and meet additional needs in the community and stay current with the current economic realities. Enhancing operating practices is about all 4 points of the Main Street approach absolutely do this. We know that. When we talk about design, we're talking about not just the public infrastructure, but also the appearance of the facades of the buildings and the inside and out, even all the visual merchandising and the way that the windows are presented. So all sorts of operating practices in the downtown of the district as a whole, and then of the individual businesses. And we help with that. There's a lot of different ways we can help with that. We being your local Main Street program, working in partnership with your businesses. Helping our businesses and our building owners to find financing, both small business financing as well as helping lead them to financing sources for rehabilitating their buildings. And overall, facilitating quality development. And this is an important one on the economic vitality list, not because it's always something directly that you're working on, but throughout the entire community. When you do things like participate in the downtown master plan process or turn out to be one of the leading community organizations in a citywide general plan update or master plan update. So I always say that people ask me after I explain economic vitality, they say, okay, well, that's great, but we still don't understand what economic vitality is. That's okay. It's going to take a while. If you feel that way and you tell me that, I won't be offended. I've heard it many times. So I like to talk about what the roles are in economic vitality, and this can be helpful when you're thinking about how can I turn on a potential member of my committee or my economic vitality team when they ask me, I think I want to volunteer in this area, but what would I do? And what do you need? And what would our roles be? So some of the roles are people help with understanding the economy, and local business owners, local building owners, city officials, other city leaders, regular old citizens, customers, teachers, bankers, all sorts of different types of folks are good at helping to analyze the local economy and help you think about strategies to improve your downtown economics. Strategic planners, people that look at data and look at information, both qualitative and quantitative, are good on the economic vitality committee or economic vitality team because they're often in tune with coming up with economic transformation strategies, economic development strategies, business development strategies. We say performance monitors too because the economic vitality team often is watching closely to see how your jobs are improving in the district, your businesses opening and your net new businesses that close. counting up the investment dollars and projects that go in both your public sector investments and your private sector investments, all the different things that we ask you to turn in on your New Mexico Main Street quarterly reports that come up with our statewide statistics, and then those go into the performance measures for the program nationally as well. And then very most importantly, so many folks out there from all different walks of life have a very significant contribution to make to business development. And so sometimes people are good at being coaches, of helping to incubate new businesses, or serving on a business recruitment team. Another good word for describing the role is, I borrowed this term from the Ciroli Institute, which is enterprise facilitation. We are enterprise facilitators. And again, this can be all different sorts of folks. Don't make the mistake of thinking, oh, if I have an economic vitality team I need to form, then I need to have a banker, 2 bankers and a real estate official. Those are good people to have, but that's not the only types of expertise you need on your economic vitality team, because so many different types of people can be enterprise facilitators. And then even folks who are involved in the community in other ways, not necessarily so linked to the economy, but might be administrators at the hospital, might be, I don't know, various different types of representatives who volunteer for civic organizations, clubs and organizations in the community. Lots of people who want to try new things, aren't afraid of trying new things, and want to invest their time and energy and maybe even resources into new things. We call those civic entrepreneurs, and they're very helpful in the economic vitality team as well. So following up this visit we're having today, I will send each of the registrants a listing of our business development toolbox tools. There's a lot of overlap with other parts of the Main Street approach, organization promotion and design, as well as EV, because everything, I think, is about business development ultimately, as well as quality of life and community revitalization. The business component is very important to everything. So I'll be sending you a follow-up along with some other follow-up materials after this, just to remind you of what I said earlier, which is let's stay in touch and stay in communication so that I can help provide you the information you need when you need that information. So looking at what's in the toolbox, we have strategic planning and information. Many of you have worked on, as I said earlier, downtown master plans, Main Street District master plans, and then your economic transformation strategies. So that's absolutely business development, is getting that strategic information together and coming up with strategic plans. Education and training. Education and training might take the form of you bringing in one of the New Mexico Main Street Revitalization Specialists to hold a seminar on social media marketing strategies to help the business owners do that. Or it might be you working in partnership with your Small Business Development Center to put on a series of workshops and maybe hold them in the downtown and invite the businesses from all over the community, and you do some of the, or you do a significant amount of the hosting work, but the SBDC does the significant amount of the production work, and together you partner and pull that off. Most of the time we see our programs work in partnership with their SBDCs and their chambers and sometimes their economic development corporations to put out the type of education and training that the business community needs. So these can be in classroom, you know, in networking and workshops. They can also be one-on-ones in-store, in-business consultations. They can be business coaching teams where you come in and work on a particular issue with the business. Lots of different formats in order to reach different people's needs and how they like to learn. Business retention and strengthening, very important role, as I was saying earlier, about starting with your existing businesses, helping them to become stronger, and all of the 4 points of Main Street are all about retaining and strengthening businesses. The best place to start here, and I'll be harping on this at least a few more times during this webinar, is your business visitation program. You got to get in there, know the business owners, know their needs, and figure out ways that you can help. Entrepreneur development is a whole system, entrepreneur development system, a comprehensive approach to nurturing and growing entrepreneurs in your community. Again, a wealth of information online about this. My favorite source for entrepreneur development is the Rupri Center for Rural Development, Entrepreneur Development. Financing incentives, we do have a bunch of those. I'm going to mention a little bit more later. You have a lot that you can learn about. They're often cumbersome. They're often very, there's a lot of effort in order to access incentives, but we all need to work together to do a better job to get our business and building owners access to these, because there's lots of checks and balances, and only we working together can put those to work. The business recruitment, mention a few tools in your business recruitment toolbox a little bit. Marketing promotion. Sounds like the promotion point of Main Street. Well, yes, there's absolute strong overlap between promotion and economic vitality. And real estate development. Many times our local Main Street programs get involved in helping to rehabilitate and reuse, adaptively reuse a white elephant building or a small or large catalytic project in their community. And it kind of takes a village to rehabilitate and reuse the Clovis Hotel in Clovis, for example. So we have another approach called the Community Initiated Development approach that the National Main Street Center National Trust developed. But these are all in your toolbox, and all of these have manuals and just unlimited data information sources to help you once you dig in. So let's look at a few of the tools and approaches in a little more detail. And notice I'm starting with what I really think is the most important job within economic vitality, and that is getting to know your owners, communicating with your business owners and your property owners. So I advise establishing a business visitation program as a formal or semi-formal thing, so that you can say at the end of the year, I did one formal business visit a month with my board chair, or the SBDC director and I did 2 business visits every month, so we ended up with 24 during the year. But even if you just did one, you've still got 12 out of all of your businesses that you know really well, and know you've read their pulse and find out what their needs are, and you've done that very, very important communication between the Main Street program and the business community. A lot of Main Street programs boards are very conscious of the importance of devoting time for their executive director to be out on the street, quote unquote, getting to know businesses and getting in their face, or I should say letting the business owners get in their face, the executive director's face. This can be what I had one executive director tell me one time, a total black hole for my time. And of course, it's something you really have to balance. But if you're not out there getting to know your businesses and not out there devoting time to it, and of course managing that time, but if you're not doing it, then you're not fully doing your job, and your program will suffer from it. And it's not just the executive director, it's also other leaders of the Main Street organization. So it's nice to team up on these visitations with at least one other person, someone from your economic vitality team, or somebody from your board, or as I mentioned, someone from another partner organization that's modeling good partnership behavior, once in a while going around with your SBDC director or your chamber executive director. Next, conducting similar types of visits with your property owners. Find out what do they plan to do with their buildings, whether they're occupied or vacant? What are they interested in? How are they interested in keeping their building up or investing in it? Did they want to join in with the Main Street effort that you've got underway? Online surveys, some communities have been getting a lot of great results. It kind of depends on the style of the business community or the citizens when they're surveying either the business and property owners via their email or community residents. But if that's a style that might work for your community, that's a good one to check out. And a lot of different folks out there do feel more connected to your program if they can give you direct information via a survey that you're using. And I think it's really important to form focus groups and forums. So let's say you had 6 businesses in your community that were restaurant entrepreneurs, and you got them together to huddle around the table to strategize how to do a online and a direct mail and a printed version of a restaurant directory because you wanted to capitalize on your strength as a foodie location. So there's all sorts of reasons to convene groups really carefully and strategically to work on your implementation. Okay, next topic is understanding your market and knowing what your assets are. And New Mexico Main Street can help in this area a lot because we've got a lot of experience doing market research. I always say the answers are not in the numbers, but you got to do the numbers too in order to have a professional dialogue with the numbers, in order to help equip your business owners to know where market opportunities might be. You've got to look at that secondary market data. You've also got to look at what your primary market data is. So secondary market data is things like the US Census, and then all of the wonderful data sources that are linked to the US Census out there, so you can understand what your local customer market is all about and what the market potential is for businesses in your community. So sources from proprietary firms like Esri, you can purchase those and get a real sense, especially using drive time analysis of your trade area, your primary, secondary, and tertiary trade areas for the local population. But for things like your tourist economy, you can't really just go to an online data source for that. You've got to understand that more locally. And so working with your chamber or tourism organization, or let's say you have a farmer's market like they do in Las Cruces, then of course the downtown organization communicates closely with the farmer's market group and understands what types of customers are coming, where they're coming from, how long they stay, and what the amounts are, etc. Knowing your market and your assets, one of the earlier steps is to inventory your businesses. And that can be just a simple listing that you're thinking of turning into a business directory. It can be an Excel spreadsheet that you eventually then are entering in onto your website for an online business directory. And then you can analyze the business mix based off of that Excel spreadsheet. More market analysis stuff. Once you've got a sense of how your businesses spread out geographically through your district, you also want to look really closely at what your business clusters are, because those can give you really good ideas for what to build upon or what to complement. So I mentioned earlier about getting those restaurant owners around the table together. So a cluster could be, let's say, across the whole Main Street district, you've got 6 restaurants. Well, that's a restaurant cluster. Doesn't necessarily need to be clustered all on one corner, but that's another type of cluster. Might just be right on one intersection where you've got a theater, a coffee cafe, an ice cream shop, a candy shop. And so obviously those cluster together well during the times when people want to go to the theater or they want to get some coffee after they've seen a movie, whatever. So that's one of the things we can help you with in looking through your clusters and how to capitalize on those. Inventorying your buildings, that's another basic step that you really should do. You want to know all the buildings in your district. I like to also advise, don't make that an insurmountable, ginormous project. Figure out what your top vacancies are first. So that's the next slide, is identifying priority vacancies. If you've got 5 priority vacancies, meaning they are on the market, they're vacant, they're basically leasable, they've got willing, cooperative, engaged property owners, then those are really on the market, and you've only got 4 or 5 of them. Get the information together on that and put those 4 or 5, list them on your website as available business location resources, because that's how people look around. They're going to find your website, and that's how they're going to find your buildings. So start with the priorities. Don't postpone 100% inventory of everything, and then 3 years later realize, oh, we never really got around to finding a little way to pay some interns from the college to do our inventory, so we still don't have our inventory. No, you gotta move forward toward action. So start with your priorities. Analyzing the visitor market and attractions, I kind of mentioned that already, but that's definitely assets. Your customer markets are not just your local residents, of course, but they're your visitors, they're your daytime workers or your daytime population, and they could be seasonal, like the community that's shown by the couple in that photograph. Next area is retain and strengthening existing businesses, and oh, we have the same picture of established business visitation program. Again, very, very important role for your economic vitality team. Getting in there, getting to know the businesses. Business visitation program, business visits can translate very comfortably and quickly into business coaching visits. And by that, we don't mean a condescending visit where anybody comes in and tells the business, we know how to run your business better than you do. You're doing all this wrong, and this is what you should do. They're not going to give them a bunch of shoulds. They're going to listen. That team is going to listen to the business owner's needs, visions, dreams, struggles, hurdles they're facing, and brainstorm collaboratively ways to address those. And they're very powerful visits. They're always very helpful. And business owners, 98% of the time, more than welcome the opportunity to open up and share, because they don't often get a chance to do that. So coming in and helping them talk about what they want to talk about is a very useful service, and it leads to so many good business development strategies. We mentioned a little earlier providing business networking and training opportunities, and I mentioned working with your partners to do that, or producing those on your own. And then here's a picture of the business coaching services when you're going in and working closely with one business owner. And producing events, promotions, and advertising. And cooperative advertising, where you get groups of the businesses together to do cross-marketing, or you're marketing your district as a whole and all the things that it has to offer. So let's talk a little bit now about identifying market opportunities. There's 2 sides to this, and if you'll remember back from your Economics 1 or your Economics 101 class, what are the 2 parts of the economy? Economics, most important, supply, and what? Demand. So these are photographs from Lovington, where they recognize that we have one of our assets in our district is this large, underutilized piece of land that the city owns, and we could use this as an incentive if we could do something with it. And then on the demand side, we have lots of local residents who are participating in the downtown when the timing's right and when it offers what the people want. And here's an example from a holiday gathering up and down Main Street in Lovington. So it takes both of those to identify market opportunities. And so on the left-hand side, again, that piece of land, city thought that, oh, this might be a good thing for the brew pub entrepreneurs to consider locating at, because they were having a hard time finding a location in the Main Street district. There were several wonderful historic buildings, but the owners just weren't quite ready. The building owners just weren't quite ready to work with interested parties interested in buying their buildings. So long story short, I hope you've all heard of the wonderful brew pub that has opened up successfully in Lovington and is capitalizing on that local demand for pizza and beer. Let's see. So once you have identified some market opportunities that you're targeting, do what I've rarely seen Main Street programs do, which is tell the world on their website what they're going after. Who are your targeted businesses you want to recruit? And one of the few examples I've seen over the past 25 years, this one is from North Park District of San Diego, one of California Main Street's leading programs in the economic vitality area. So they put on their website, and I apologize that this is from a long time ago, but I still like the example. They put on their website just who they were going after, and what they did great was actually declaring their targets. What they didn't do so well was they put too many on, I think. They should have narrowed it down to just a few, but it was still a good example. So recruiting new business is some of the things that you can do. As I just said, you can identify your market opportunities and tell the world what your targets are. You can publish a market profile sheet, which is a glossy two-sided thing that summarizes a lot of the key pertinent economic data about why a business owner or a building owner should consider locating in your Main Street district. And this is something that you can also then put up on your website, of course, because you want people to be able to access it there. A more old-fashioned idea, but one that still is very important, is a business development packet, which has a bunch of papers inside of it about market information and services of the Main Street program and how to launch a business in our community, all that kind of stuff. And you can then print off of your website this information or off of your partner's website and put it into a nice presentation folder. And that's what they did a few years back in downtown Las Cruces, is they had these nice glossy presentation folders printed, and they used them for a lot of things, like for a business development packet, as well as when they wanted to provide some set of information to a new employee at City Hall, or if they wanted to put in a thank you letter to the City Council. So a lot of different things that they could use that business development packet or presentation packet for. In Carlsbad a couple years back, they published a rack card of some summary economic data, and then also encouraging entrepreneurs to consider locating in the Main Street district. Let's see. Another important thing for recruiting new businesses is, as I mentioned earlier, that available properties listing. Make sure that that's accessible on your website. You can become known as the go-to organization for all of the available real estate in your district. Does that mean that you're doing the real estate community's job? No, you're helping them do their job. You're coordinating with them, and you're giving them a place where they can be listed. So you've got that column in the middle that says who owns the property, as well as who's handling the sale or lease of the property, which real estate professional or realtor is handling that. Another important tool is putting the windows together, cleaning up the windows of vacant buildings, and sometimes putting displays in them, or temporary art shows called phantom galleries, or nice graphics, various different things, so that you're showing that while this building may be vacant, this storefront is unoccupied, it's still full of opportunity, and we care about this, and it's clean and presentable, and it's got the lights up at Christmas time, and it's a good opportunity for you as a business owner. like they did in Lovington with these are called window decals, I think, but they're so much less expensive than they ever used to be. These wonderful window decals that you can put up in your windows to communicate the message that you want, and also show a consistency of message across the vacancies in your downtown. So marketing those vacancies through the windows is a key activity, very important, that Main Street communities can do, economic vitality teams can do, because you want to take some visible action, and this one really pays off, because when people look around for a location for their business, they first look online, then they go to a location, they drive around, and then they might check in with the chamber, and then they might check in with the Main Street organization. So they're always checking out sites to get a feel for whether that might be the right location for their business. So what a difference finding a beautiful, clean storefront with an inviting message on it makes versus you know, a window with cracked windows and old newspapers and a mattress stuck up against it, like we sometimes see. Another activity is preparing profile sheets of your available properties. And this, again, would be something that you can work in partnership with your real estate professionals on. This is an example from a very urban Main Street style organization in Sacramento, California. It's a property-based business improvement district, so the property owners are very active in marketing their buildings collaboratively, collectively like this. And the local Sacramento Downtown Association worked in partnership with realtors to put these profile sheets together. But we can do that too. This desktop publishing, we can have our stuff as nice as this, and we certainly are able to find the same economic information that we can put in our profile sheets. Now, some Main Street communities say, well, this is what the realtor should do. Whoever's got the property listed, they should do this. Well, yeah, they should, but they don't always do it. So if you do it for them or with them, then they appreciate it, they partner with you, and everybody's collaborating better together in order to market the sites. And so this is a nice example. Adding features on your website that project to the world that you're a business development organization. Not every Main Street program does that because, and I'm not being critical here, it's just mainly because we expect our websites to do so much. But at a minimum, you'll want your website to list available properties, and you'll want to be able to list that you offer services for business owners. And another thing that Artesia Main Street's always done really well is listing both their public investments and their private investments in the Main Street districts under accomplishments. And the reason why that's a business development feature is if you're a business prospect looking to open in a Main Street district, of course you're going to be looking at and finding out, is this an area where people are investing in? Are they devoting community resources and private resources into this district? If so, that's a good sign that this place is on the up. And like I said, Artesia, check their website out. They've improved it again since this screenshot. But they do a good job of portraying that type of very supportive environment that the Main Street program provides to the business community within the district. And then we're on financing and incentives. A good place to start for if you have a business owner or a business prospect that is looking for financing. The Small Business Development Center is very good at coaching a business owner about what financing sources are out there. The SBDC does not control any financing directly, but they can help set up an applicant to be a strong borrower from a Small Business Administration, SBA loan. And most communities in our Main Street districts across New Mexico have SBA certified bank lenders right in their community. And then there's also micro lenders, or what we can call non-traditional lenders, that operate throughout New Mexico and have been strong partners with New Mexico Main Street and have been enthusiastic about lending to Main Street businesses across the state, the Loan Fund, West, and Accion. And then there are some USDA tools that can help finance loans for businesses, and loans for community facilities, things like that, and sometimes indirectly grant money that helps support small business development. And then we have our preservation tax credits, local programs put together, facade improvement, incentive grant programs. Many communities organize as one of their workshops a access to capital workshop, along with working individually with businesses to help them implement their applications. I've seen some of our Main Street programs help put together loan applications with businesses, and very frequently provide information about the Main Street program and local market information that the business owner or business prospect who's asking for a loan can put directly into their business plan and into their loan application. And there's also other state and local incentives like State LEDA and Local Economic Development Act. So over a year ago, the previous October, we had one of our leadership network meetings focusing on financing, and we have a little compendium of financing tools. There's a bunch there. You should check that out, and if you don't already have a copy, maybe I should email that to you as one of the follow-ups. And then we ask you at New Mexico Main Street, we ask you to turn in your priority projects into the pipeline so we can help track those and help you keep an eye out for financing. This is an example for the building project pipeline, an example from Carlsbad where they listed their IWF building. We also have a target recruitment pipeline as well as an existing business that you're helping pipeline. So if you haven't already turned in your priorities, at least one priority for each of those, be sure to do that. Now it's important to talk about economic vitality partnerships and your leadership and getting together and organizing your economic vitality work. In addition to those business visits and those property owner visits, it's really good to make sure that you check in with your partners. Your Small Business Development Center, your City Hall, of course, your Chamber of Commerce, Economic Development Organization, your community college. I know how hard it is to run a Main Street program, and so I'm not surprised sometimes when I've visited with an executive director and a board chair and his or her economic vitality team and find out that nobody in the group has walked 2 blocks and visited with their Small Business Development Center in years. Or maybe their SBDC is not quite located in town, and so they haven't ever met their SBDC director. That can happen, and it takes all of us to outreach to each other to partner and benefit from the fruits of a partnership. And you'll want to establish your core economic vitality team, which is often 5 or so people from your board and key volunteers who want to do some of the economic vitality team actions. And then the extended team is, again, people like bringing your partners in, because a lot of the stuff that you want to do, you're going to want to do it with your other business development and economic development organizations. So let's just talk about economic transformation strategies a little bit. You know, this is New Mexico Main Street's and the National Main Street's way to be much more intentional about our Main Street work and make sure that it's grounded in economic realities and that it has a vision for an economic vision and that it's very strategic. So we've talked about before putting your economic transformation strategies together, and the outline for that is to have a strategy title, to come up with a summary sentence so you can really explain real quickly in that elevator what that particular transformation strategy is, and then when and where you need it, you could explain your approach more in a paragraph explanation. And then we advise breaking those economic transformation strategies into your 4-point actions, so the tasks and the actions that you take in order to follow through on that strategy over time. So here's an example of the strategy being capture more local consumer dollars by helping existing businesses to better serve residents. And then you see you've got your different actions under each of the 4 points. So if I want to capture more local consumer dollars, I might start with, under economic vitality, passing out my market profile sheets to my local businesses in my district, being 65 of them, who would like to learn a little more about what gaps there are in the marketplace in terms of business, local resident demand that local businesses aren't addressing, they aren't meeting. And so those dollars are leaking out of the district because people are going somewhere else. So it might give the business owners some ideas of either new lines to add or seasonal merchandise to plug in, or maybe even another enterprise to launch with all of their entrepreneurial talent. And then similarly, other actions for each of the 3 other points. Okay, we're getting close to wrapping up, and then we'll have some time for questions. We at New Mexico Main Street, just like across the country, New Mexico Main Street and the Main Street movement across the United States has done an amazing job over the decades of tracking their results. And why is that? Well, we have a good handle on them. We can, it's not very hard to measure. And we can watch very closely the businesses that come in and the businesses that go out. We can watch very closely the investment that happens in our very defined geographic area and count that up. So we have real numbers that are showing the real impact of this approach across our state and across the country. So it's good stuff, and we're going to just keep that going, those great data streams, and we're still very strong and powerful in this. So we ask for all of you as executive directors should know that every quarter you have to turn in your quarterly report, and it's the next one is due when, let's see, April 10th. They're always due on the 10th. And so for the first quarter, January through March, that's due April 10th. For the next quarter, April through June, it's due June 10th. And there are 2 quarters during the year where we have this weird thing where we have to get your data in a little bit ahead of the end of the quarter, instead of letting you have 10 more days after the quarter ends. And that's in order to meet the deadlines for state, for Economic Development Department and state agencies and the legislature and the governor's office for different state reporting and publication deadlines. We just had to adjust our schedule that way. So the first page is about what are the improvements you're making to private buildings inside and out. And then the next page is about tracking your business openings, closings, and ones that have expanded. And then also we've got building purchases and public sector projects, new buildings, and a little bit of tracking of grant money and your promotions. And at the end, your volunteers, counting up your volunteer hours and estimating that total as accurately as possible. So that's all for for the overview, and let's see if we can have a little time for questions now.
All right. Thank you, Keith. Back with Anna here at Main Street. Again, if people use their raise hand icon, or they're also welcome to type in a question if you want to do that in the live session now. Also, don't hesitate. I think Keith reiterated that the revitalization specialists offer a lot of expertise, and so you could feel free to reach out to Keith after this session to discuss it further, or the other material that he's going to send out following this session. We will post today's live session on our YouTube channel later today, probably, and you can share that again with board members and other community members who are maybe volunteering or involved in your organization. So this whole series of webinars, I think, can be a useful approach to sort of educating other interested community members in the work of Main Street and how the Main Street 4-point approach works. And right now, I'm not seeing any questions from any individuals. So with that, I can thank you all for joining us today. And again, don't hesitate if you do come up with something later on when you're thinking about this session. Anything further, Keith?
No, I think that covers it. I can't really see if anybody had any questions on my screen because I'm doing this remote, but I guess we just covered everything, and there aren't any questions.
Excellent job. So thank you all. We know it's, oh, wait, I do see one. Oh, we have a thank you from Charmaine Waite in Silver City. She's offered her thanks. And thank you all.
For your thank you.
Oh, wait, Christopher Baca does have a question. Have you heard of the This Place Matters campaign?
Yeah, I have. Have you also heard of it, Anna?
I haven't, no.
It's the This Place Matters campaign that the National Main Street Center and the National Trust for Historic Preservation do. And I think it's still active. I haven't noticed it in a few months, but you basically join the national, if not international, network of folks who make postings of This Place Matters in your community by holding up a sign that says This Place Matters. So that's kind of a marketing thing, Anna.
All right, let me see if I can unmute Christopher.
Okay.
Did you want to add anything to that, Christopher? Are you there? All right. Well, maybe not. He did type in, though. Oh, he doesn't have a mic on his phone or on the computer. He's listening through the computer. Thank you for typing in. We appreciate that. Okay. Well,
yeah,
if no one...
the way you access This Place Matters is through the National Trust for Historic Preservation.
Oh, excellent. And yes, if somebody did have a further question on This Place Matters, feel free to reach out and email New Mexico Main Street. And like I said, this session and our earlier sessions will be posted on the Main Street YouTube channel, which you can access through our homepage at www.nmmainstreet.org, and the social media icons are there, of which you would go to YouTube to watch this session or earlier sessions. And so that's today's economic vitality point, and next week we'll be joined by Amy Bell on the design point. So again, thank you all so much. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us for today's session.
Thank you.